Welcome to the Head Shepherd podcast. I'm your host, Mark Ferguson, CEO here at NextGen Agri International, where we help livestock managers get the best out of their stock. Before we get started, thank you to our two fantastic sponsors for continuing to sponsor this podcast. MSD Animal Health is perhaps better known as Cooper's Animal Health in Australia and for their Allflex range across the world, with a comprehensive suite of animal health and management products. Honiger is a one-stop shop for wool harvesting and animal fibre removal. The Honiger team have a deep understanding of livestock agriculture, backed by Swiss engineering and a family business dedicated to manufacturing the best. We are grateful to our sponsors for their support, helping us bring Head Shepherd to you each week. And now it's time to get on with this week's episode. Welcome back to Head Shepherd. You're with Ferg. Great to have you listening along. Today on the show, we feature Jack O'Connor. Jack's the 2025 winner of the Australian section of the Zanda McDonald Award, a great young primary producer there, farming in near Young in New South Wales with his family at Oxton Park, which is a significant business these days. It's a really great chat with Jack to sort of talk through how that business has both got the sort of the legacy of being around for a long time, but also driving to really innovate as well. Really cracking bloke. I'm sure you're really going to enjoy this chat, and looking forward to meeting Jack at the summit coming up in a couple of weeks' time, the Zanda McDonald Summit, where we get all the winners and the previous winners together and all the finalists and get inspired by some cracking speakers as well. Really looking forward to spending a bit of time on the Gold Coast with Jack and the rest of the crew. Before we get on to that, Sophie's written an article this week. Sophie and Tom both attended AAABG, which is the sort of Trans-Tasman Genetics Conference that runs every couple of years. And this time it was in Queenstown, so every now and again it ends up in New Zealand and then goes around the states of Australia. And it's a great conference of all quantitative geneticists getting together. Sophie's written this article that's titled Future-Proofing Livestock Through Genetics, and talks about all the different, some of the papers that she heard and the presentations she heard at that conference around the welfare traits, which, as you know, is sort of close to our hearts here at NextGen Agri. Really keen to breed those animals to have a higher welfare outcome and cost us less, and all the good things that go with that combination. So, yeah, great article written by Sophie. Jump on the hub, check it out. As you know, we put out an article every week. In fact, Sophie informed me this morning that we've just cranked up a year of weekly articles. So that's an awesome effort by the team. Hopefully you're out there enjoying it. But yeah, really proud of the team for continuing to put out that information that we sort of fits in between all the other jobs that we've got to do to get these articles written and out there. And really enjoy the material that the team come up with as a group. But anyway, we better get on with the show and hear from Jack O'Connor from Oxton Park. Welcome, Jack O'Connor, to Head Shepherd.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Thanks a lot for having me.
Great to have you on, mate. We've been a bit lax, actually. Should have this one done a while back, but we're getting to it now. Congratulations on being the 2025 Zanda McDonald Award winner. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mark. No, it's still probably sinking in a little bit, even though that does sound a bit cliche. But I'm probably thinking of myself maybe as Stephen Bradbury, Mark, and someone's going to knock on my door in a minute and tell me they've made a mistake. But really, really, really enjoying it, and just from the quality and the caliber of all the other finalists, Mark, and the people in that Zanda community, it certainly, has been a couple of pinch me moments, that's for sure, and definitely some more to come, I've no doubt.
Yeah, it'd be good. Unfortunately, obviously, with the cyclone, we didn't get together, but we've got that coming up in August, so that's going to be good to finally get together and celebrate it properly. But yeah, that was a bit of not so ideal, but we'll get there. And then as you say, it's a great community, and particularly all the finalists and alumni and stuff. It's a great community of pretty passionate young people.
Yeah, it's been it's been pretty special, Mark, and a lot of people have reached out. Some that I'd met before and others that I hadn't, and it's certainly going to be one to remember, and very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, cool. We'll get into. Well, we've got to look for the reasons how you won that thing, so we'll do some digging into the career, but
hopefully we'll work something out.
Yeah. So I guess before we get into your current role there at Oxton Park, I guess maybe just your sort of career journey to date and what you've been up to.
Yeah, of course. No, so I've basically studied, got a Bachelor of Economics at Sydney Uni and majored in agribusiness, and then spent a couple of years working for Meat and Livestock Australia, which was a fantastic experience. And then post that, travelled a bit overseas and worked for a couple of non-for-profit organisations, which was really life-changing, and in the lead up to me coming back to Oxton Park rather in the start of 2018. So yeah, been back on the farm now for what's that, coming up on 8 years, I suppose. Which, no, like anyone, it seems like just yesterday, but very much enjoying winter time here at Harden. July is really exciting, and time around here, you got lambs hitting the ground and hopefully crops growing in the right direction. But I certainly won't be complaining, too much, Mark, about the couple of frosty mornings we've had, because a mutual friend, I think Grant McNaughton, who's a farmer in northern Otago, I have no doubt he'd be out in his budgie smugglers in these sorts of conditions. So, no, but all going really well, Mark. And since we've had a fortunate late autumn break, certainly, a lot more of a positive sentiment around the area. So shaping up to be another good season, hopefully.
Yeah, excellent. Did I read somewhere that was it Uganda or somewhere you travelled overseas and did some of that work? Or
yeah, sure did. Yeah, so 2016, 17, I'd been involved in doing a bit for a few different non-for-profits, mainly the Manjiri School project, and then working with Annabelle Chauncey at School for Life, and just being involved and doing what we can to support rural business development, mainly in agricultural business development in rural Ugandan communities that aim to provide financial sustainability to a lot of those villages and communities, and fundamentally provide support to primary schools. So that was obviously a bit of a world away for what I was doing before in North Sydney, and then heading out and talking to cattle and sheep producers about how you're spending their money versus that, and then now being on the other side of the fence back here at Oxton Park. It's been a great journey in what has been obviously a pretty short career so far to date, Mark.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I imagine you couldn't be two worlds further apart than Harden and Uganda. But not
no, that's for sure.
Talk us through Oxton Park. It's obviously it's been around for a fair while. What's I guess a bit of the history and the current sort of role and your role in the business?
Yeah, of course. So we run Oxton Park's a larger scale sort of commercial mixed farming business based in Harden and Young in southern New South Wales. So it encompasses about 15 properties across the business, but still just run as one overarching company, and with a few different enterprises. So our commercial merino flock consists of about between 35 and 40,000 sort of dual purpose merino ewes, and we also put in about 4,000 hectares of crop each year that encompasses canola, main season and grazing canola, wheat and triticale. So, which is obviously pretty paramount for finishing lambs in that enterprise. So we employ close to 20 permanent and casual staff here at Oxton Park, and we're just coming up to 105 years sort of since our establishment. So this next crop of young pups coming in, Mark, that I'm very much involved in is the fourth generation, and we're just in loving every day and just contributing where we can.
Yeah, awesome. The obviously a significant enterprise. So any cattle, or was that merino and crop only? No beef?
No, so we liquidated. We used to run a breeding herd back and liquidated them in the late 90s, and that was sort of in line with our transition to a terminal ram, introducing a terminal ram. So we basically take between 30 and 35% of the classed out merino flock and join them to a Dorsa ram, which gives us that sort of first cross fat lamb. And that's that. Traditionally that's been, pretty appealing as a supermarket article. But then in recent years, as we've sort of, invested a little bit more genetically on both sides of the fence, really, merino and the Dorsets, to, try and fine tune that business to appeal to, a few different markets, which we've, been having some really, really good success with, which has been great. But, so my role is pretty diverse with the business, and sort of enables me to sit across sort of all facets of the company, which is sort of something that I really enjoy, as well as sort of new tech and potential new, sort of business opportunities, as well as sort of the business administration side. And certainly got a fantastic team of, very experienced people around us, and staff and people that have been very much ingrained in this business, Mark, for generations. Some that had worked with my grandfather, and others that their father worked with my grandfather, and so like that. So it's been pretty second to none to be able to learn off those guys and those families, and then with the introduction with a whole different new crop of staff coming through too that obviously add all their different strengths and perspectives. It certainly fills you with a lot of pride and optimism for the company going forward. That's for sure.
Yeah, excellent. I think somewhere you've been quoted as saying people are agriculture's biggest asset, which I think won't have too many people arguing with that. I guess maybe talk us through what you've seen, I suppose, in managing people in those different jobs you've had, and now back home at Oxton Park. That's sort of I guess where that sentiment comes from.
Yeah, of course. No, it's. I'm glad you agree with me. I didn't think we were going to get into a shirt fronting on that one, but no, I think that's just what we've always sort of grown up with, Mark, is you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with, and that's no different to Oxton Park and any farming business. It's the people that you've got in your team that that make you stronger, and I think that's always been the sentiment of the company. Is whether it's the staff we employ internally or mainly our business consultants. So I certainly won't try and mention them all because I'll get in trouble for missing a couple. Yeah. But Chris Duff from Delta Agribusiness has been our long-standing chairman, and Stephanie O'Connor, our long-standing financial advisor from Custom Accounting and Cootamundra. And those two, not just involved in the sort of the month to month, planning and financial management advisory side of things, but very much instrumental in the succession side of the business too, which is, we probably need a whole different podcast to dive into that. But just having those sorts of people, in your corner and along with you on the journey only makes you stronger. And then going back a couple of years to a gentleman by the name of John Sullivan and David Groves really helped, sort of formulate the company structure that we, sort of put through the business in the different enterprises, which has got so much benefit, Mark, in that we could probably touch on that later, but on the accountability piece, and really just makes you accountable to the company and just really plays into the strength, I suppose, of the succession discussion and the journey that it's had through Oxton Park. And then going back a couple of years, probably personally for me too, someone by the name of Peter Cox, who sadly passed away a couple of years ago, but he was a really strong mentor for me coming through because of the importance, I suppose. An extremely great stockman, but the importance he put on bringing young people through the ranks and training young people up. And he was with elders for quite a number of years and has left quite a long lasting legacy from so many people in the industry. So very fortunate, Mark, to have had all those people in our corner for the business, and obviously for me too personally.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, that's one of the amazing, beautiful things about ag is all the great people in it. Obviously, just quickly into that governance side of things, which is a bit of just delve into that quickly. As that, I guess, as a company, I'm an all family companies to start with somebody just farming a bit and then eventually gets into some governance structure. I guess when was that call made to bring that sort of more formal structure in? And I guess, I know how enabling that'll be, and I think that's something that any business at scale really needs, that governance structure. When did that sort of start coming into play?
Yeah, no, so probably developed more through the late 90s and then implemented through the early 2000s. And it was certainly, off the back of the succession plan, sort of from the generation above us as they sort of navigated their way through that time. But I think it was certainly, again, instrumental to the success of the business through what were very, testing times in a couple of droughts through that time, to really sort of centralise and simplify, a few of the enterprises, which was probably in line with what we had before about liquidating the cattle breeding herd as well, and putting some structure, again, putting really good structures around the company that held everyone, to account and just made those conversations, a little bit easier as everyone sort of knew the direction the company was heading in, and the strategic sort of, strategic directions the company was heading in. So No, very much, like I said, something that we've always grown up knowing, and it does start. It's not just the sort of overarching structure that a lot of companies would have too, Mark. It sort of starts from the weekly and monthly financial reporting and record reconciliation to quarterly and annual reports, and these are things that again hold us as managers and I guess custodians of the business to account to make sure we're doing the right thing by all aspects of the business, not just the welfare of the land, but also our people and our, and our business health. So, no, we have a board that's configured of 4 directors, a secretary and a chairman, and a couple of shadow directors. And we meet 2 or 3 times a year, and which really provides a really healthy foundation for our company to make sure we're sort of always, again, strategically aligned and on the same page pretty well.
Yeah, no, I imagine it's very powerful at keeping it on the straight and narrow. You mentioned those workers, the team members that have been part of the business for decades from your grandfather's era right through, and that's such a cool part of, I guess, legacy businesses that they got that sort of. It's not just the family that are sort of owning or in the directorships; it's the families that are also supported by the business and all part of it. One of the challenges often with, I guess, multi-generations in a business is sort of some people wanting to stick with things the way it's always been done, and others that are really keen to get things moving. How do you sort of balance that day to day to kind of keep the traditions alive, but also drive for new things?
Yeah, of course. No, it's a good question, and certainly not. It's one that needs constant management. It's no different to any other facet of your business, and a lot of it comes down to managing people and personalities and expectations. And I think more directly it's understanding the strengths of the team that you've got and what they bring. And obviously we're not strangers to the fact that we've got people in our business that have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years, and it's just getting a balance between the intellectual property that those people bring, because they've seen, probably how bad it can get. And then just getting that really healthy combination with those, like I said, those new, young and energetic people coming through that are, probably need a foot in their collar every now and then, but also, offer so much more to the table in changing markets and technology. So it's that, I certainly like to think of our company, Mark, as an early adopter, of good tech and, and always looking for new efficiencies and little gains and low hanging fruit that we can always, adopt and utilize in the business. But, like to give you an example, there's still a very diverse range. Like we've got, people are kicking around that have got apps coming out their ears on their phone. And then we've got one guy here who's worked with my grandfather and my father and uncles and now myself, who's been here for over 40 years. And I still meet him at the Fuel Bowser every Thursday morning, 9 a.m. to do his footy tips. Hard copy on the paper because he can't text. But these are the sorts of blokes that he's probably built half the fences and laid half the water pipe across his farm. So his intellectual property is invaluable in so many other areas. So, and he's just one example of how you sort of, you got to be able to work in together and play off everyone's strengths. And that's what, I think that's what Oxton Park's always, been proud to sort of put their hand up and say they've done that. They've had a really diverse, not just a diverse business enterprise mix too, that's given everyone enough space to, I guess really sort of hone in on their passions and follow their passions, but also enough, enough room to, to feel like they're contributing and to really bring, new ideas to the table, which has been, really important.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess, is there anything you do differently than, I guess, to bring in those new tech? That's just, I guess, if it's in the DNA of the business, it's probably not. I mean, they're probably, even if they've been there for 4 decades, they've probably seen a lot of change. So if is that how it rolls? Like the kind of the people that naturally end up at Oxton Park or staying at Oxton Park are those that kind of are pretty okay with change anyway? Is that how it's sort of played out?
I'd say that. There's certainly, you're going to get different appetites to change and resistance to change, the same as you got appetites for risk, in our businesses too, as you know, across everyone. But No, very much. I think, yeah, back to some of the stuff that we've implemented over the years, and even some of the conversations, Mark, that I'll have with farmers, whether it's down at the footy on Saturday or over the top rail. It's that the first question is, whenever you're trying to adopt either a new tech or a new way of doing things, you say, well, mate, what's the problem you're trying to fix? And that's sort of the question I think you've always got to start with, in my opinion, because to hone in on ag tech, just for the sake of the argument or the discussion, is that it is highly concentrated market. And I think, I don't speak for all farmers, but a lot of people would probably feel like a little bit overwhelmed and feel that they've sort of not so much, got to jump in and try something because they might feel like they're being left behind, when it might actually not be the right thing for their business.
Yeah.
And, the old ways can still be the good ways. Like, it's not like, this new sort of wave coming through, I've got it all worked out. But no, I think that's got to be the message we've always said is, and that sort of comes back to our foundation and that structure, is we've got these, whether it be reporting lines or open, lines of communication, and I guess a process that we've got to go through before we can implement, things, because that's the sort of due diligence that you need to be doing, in these areas to make sure the business is going to be getting the return. Yeah. You can't just be, we've never been, I suppose, the companies, as was always said to me, like, big ships take a longer to turn. And I think it's worked in our favor. Obviously, there's a downside to that too, but, when it can work in your favor, is it just means you got to take, really make sure all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted before it's, making that next move, whether it be any facet of the business.
Yeah.
So that's, that's certainly put us in good positions in the past. And, no, I think it's working pretty well.
Yeah, cool. Community engagement's obviously a big thing, like 20 staff members. That's a community on its own, really, in most of regional Australia. Obviously, that's been important, that intergenerational type stuff, but also just that local community is pretty important. When if you've amalgamated 20 different properties, you're going to be very much intertwined in the community.
Yeah, for sure. No, it goes hand in hand, Mark, with a lot of the aspects I've been speaking about, and what I'm passionate about is the strength of these rural communities is directly correlated with the strength of our ag businesses. Like, when working in ag will arguably be their main form of employment for a lot of these communities, it's such a pivotal piece in what we do. And, if you had your blinkers up, you think, well, why does that matter to me if I'm just trying to, run my farm and do my best? And the reason why it matters is just because, going into some of the big challenges we're going to have going forward, whether that's, mainly staff, like finding, labor restrictions in all these different enterprises, you can't have your head in the sand and think that farmers just want to be waking up and thinking about farming 7 days a week, 24/7, because life's about a balance. And I think that's what we've always sort of honed in. And, that could go off into probably a separate piece we can speak about another time in terms of the importance we put around staff development and professional development and getting off farm. I know you've your podcast being, another one. I won't pump your tires up, but, certainly one that's highly regarded, and a lot of people would listen and think that's their form of, thinking a bit more broadly. And that comes into the community piece, the importance of, when it's tools down, how vital those avenues are for local sport. We're a big supporter of local sporting clubs. We run an active farmers group one morning a week, which Active Farmers is a fantastic foundation that supports mental health, in rural communities, as well as working with Boys from the Bush, which is another organisation across the country that, supports and facilitates, young men that want to work in ag and get into farming, and just the benefits of working in our industry. So the communities are so important, Mark. And like I said, back to the staff here at Oxton Park, like when you're either trying to recruit someone or the sort of people that you want to bring into your business, like you have to understand that it's not just what you're offering, say 9 to 5, for instance, that is part of the whole lifestyle and part of the big picture. So, and we've always, from a personnel point of view, Mark, like we've always, aggressively, I'm not ashamed to say it, but aggressively sought out, whether it's from a recruitment point of view, sought out people that are going to contribute to our culture, to our business culture, ones that are aligned, like with our values, with our mission, and passion equals profit. Like I heard that recently somewhere and I go, that is just bang on. Like, that it's at its core, that's what we're so lucky to have and fortunate to have. And luck isn't everything. We've tried pretty hard to put ourselves in a situation where we like to think Oxton Park's a great place to work, but the people that work here, mate, you're not going to get any more passionate people, in what they do. And that just contributes to the whole place.
Yeah. Amazing stuff. And 100% agree you're part of the next generation of leadership at Oxton Park, and I'm sure there's others. You've already mentioned a bit of getting off farm and sort of professional development. I guess where does that is in terms of the business, where do people view that as how important it is to get people skilled up?
Yeah, and that's a perspective thing too. I think, Mark, I'd be lying if I said everyone around the table or everyone around the place gets excited if I start nagging them too much about heading to a workshop or heading away on a trip. But I tell you, the sentiment when they get back is a hell of a lot different, and it's never one that is of regret. And it's just. It's like talking to a farmer before he goes away on holidays. Like, he's the most stressed, or she's the most stressed person ever. And then as soon as they get back from holidays, it's like they've been meditating for 2 weeks. They're just a different person. So there's that perspective. Certainly it's something we've got to work on. It's no different. It's like a muscle, Mark. It's no different. Any part of your business that needs working, and it needs attention for it to be better. And it's a regular discussion point, in our weekly and fortnightly meetings of what's coming up, and really pushing staff. Some staff are better and other people are better than others. And that just comes down to personality and their strengths. And it's not, it's like people skills, Mark. I heard someone speak recently about, people skills being regarded as soft skills versus hard skills are the technical operational ones. And that couldn't be further from the truth when in my opinion, because your people skills are everything. And, it is like your perspective towards professional development. You're always going to lean towards the things, your strengths, but, we love promoting experience through mistakes around here as well, and growth through mistakes, and really putting yourself in uncomfortable positions. That's not putting a tractor on its roof, but that's going outside the box. Yeah, exactly. No, that's going outside the box, Mark, and that's putting yourself, challenging yourself in different ways. And see, for a lot of farming businesses too, that might be the financial management side and the business literacy side. And, that's something that, we really try to continue working on with our young managers, and to make sure everyone's, across their numbers. And, in an environment where we're at now, Mark, and I think that was, a point that you'd made prior is, these farming businesses are highly, highly complex, and when your inputs and overheads change and things that are out of your control change, you've got to be in a situation where you've got the skills to be able to deal with those problems. And that's certainly things that we don't take for granted, being able to sort of broaden those skill sets and making sure you've got the right people in the right seats, Mark, is really what we're about.
Yeah, and that's always the constant battle. I guess one of the challenges of having a passionate team is that they tend to be so passionate about doing what they do, they don't actually want to get off farm and do other stuff. But so it is, it's always that challenge of
exactly, and that's and you'd love that, right? Like, you love people that, like I just said, passion and profit, mate. Like, it's people just when you've got those sorts of people in those roles, like it's a powerful thing. And I think for us as well, it's as a company, we've always believed in leading by example, and that's probably a message I'd have for more young people coming back through is patience and doing your time in the saddle. And I think for here at Oxton Park, we're so fortunate. We've employed some fantastic young people in the last couple of years. Amelia Stokehill, Lachlan Barrett, and Jono Valesky. They're just got great personalities and great perspectives on our business, and just all around fantastic people. That's just to mention a few. But there's some fantastic people in our industry, Mark, that are just offering some really exciting things. Liv Faulkner up at Haddon Rig, B. Litchfield down at Hazeldean, and only thing as recently as the other week, catching up with Amelia Unthank, because she actually works up with the McDonald's on Curry there, and she's the founder of the Primary Source platform. And just all these people that are just that's where I get a lot of inspiration, is sort of rubbing shoulders with a lot of those sorts of people. And they certainly they offer those sorts of different perspectives and skills that might not have seen in these farming businesses 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, you mentioned a few crackers there. Excellent. Fantastic, mate. We won't hold you too much longer. Just the last couple of questions, which we ask everybody, which may be the hardest sometimes, but that's why we ask them. But what's the last thing you changed your mind about?
Last thing I changed my mind about, I could probably give you. Well, a plan's only made to be changed, Mark. So
That's right. That's why
I think a few people listening to this podcast will agree with me on that. But I'll take it to a different level. So I'm the father of a near 2-year-old, and I think the last time I changed my plan was my negotiating skills. As the parents listening will understand, negotiating skills at mealtime with a 2-year-old can be, like negotiating with Donald Trump over a peace deal. So I think I've changed my mind on porridge as opposed to cornflakes, because I think you'd be able to plaster a house with porridge. And I think after the third handful went up against the window, I thought, I've got to change tax here.
Yeah, no, I've certainly been there. Luckily, a while ago now, but certainly been in those negotiations and lost plenty of times.
Oh, yeah, I haven't had many wins.
No. You've already mentioned a couple of these, but maybe if we rank them a bit, but the best human you've had the pleasure to learn from?
Yeah, this is a hard one. I'm going to have to change it slightly and say humans, because human is going to be too difficult for me. But I think from my own...
I got it down to 6, mate, just so you...
Well, gee, I'm going to look like an ordinary bloke if I go less than 6. No, I won't. I won't make the list too long. But I think for my own personal growth, in business management day to day, Andrew Sutherland from Focus Ag, who he'd done a number of years consulting for Paraway Pastoral, he's got a great depth of knowledge, as well as John Francis from Agrista. I've known John for a number of years, and also Liz Bodycott from Custom Accounting Cootamundra. They're sort of 3 people that, when their name pops up on your phone, you take that call pretty fast, and certainly lean on their, wisdom and knowledge, day to day, week to week, bouncing stuff off them. They've been tremendously important to me, for my own growth. And then, like I said, Annabelle Chauncey and Nick Harrington were 2 really, really impressive young people that started the 2 non-for-profit charities that I did some work with over in Uganda. And these were 18-year-old kids, Mark, straight out of school, that had that sort of vision. And to be surrounded by those 2 people for all those years, seeing their drive and their passion really shaped, I guess, a lot of my drive and passion, but also my perspective. And I think I've always sort of been big on that throughout being back on the farm, is the importance of having perspective when times get tough and, the resilience gets tested. There's always someone else having a worse day. And I know it's relative, but it's an important one to keep in mind, because like I said, the communities and, my heart goes out to all those communities like we've been before in Western Victoria and South Australia and those sorts of places, mate, where it's, certainly we've all got them in our thoughts throughout what's been a hard time. But I suppose, above all, Mark, it sounds cliche, but my parents, my mum and dad certainly wouldn't. I'm very fortunate to work with my old man every day. And I think, I can speak for a couple of my cousins would say the same thing too. And other guys in the area that get to work with their fathers and families, in this sort of environment. Obviously it can be wrought with danger sometimes too. And there's always hard conversations. Don't get me wrong. We have hard conversations every week, but I think fundamentally it's built off this inherent trust and open communication that we have with each other, that we're all, at the end of the day, Mark, we're all just trying to, leave a legacy of being those that built something up rather than, ripped it down.
Yeah.
And that's been really important. And other businesses around us, Mark, like Jim and Sam Lenihan from Jugyong, Al Baldry, another, really great operator from over there at Wollongbean, and David Thorne next door, one of our neighbours. Like we're surrounded by these high, and Brad Kavanagh from Hard Hat Angus next door as well. We're surrounded by these, highly intelligent, high performance operations that are just a stone's throw away. So I think we're certainly not the only community like it. I know there'd be a lot of other communities that have those sorts of, people close by, but we're very fortunate to have them, in and around the business.
Yeah.
How was that? Was that about 6?
Yeah, it was about that. Well, a few more than that, but that's good, mate.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I just, when you said human, I thought, there's not going to be one.
No, yeah, and there never is. But yeah, but it's good it's great to hear all those people that shape you, and I think we need to I think it's a good thing for all of us to stop and think about a bit, because it's sort of easy to cruise along and just forget about all those important people. Well, you don't forget about them, but you kind of take them. You can take it for granted if you don't stop and think some of these things. But
yeah, of course.
That's been awesome, Jack. Really looking forward to catching up on the Goldie, and not too far now. Only just over a month away, so it's going to be great to catch up with the Zanda Summit. But yeah, thanks very much for your time, mate. Really appreciate that, and it's great to hear that story. And yeah, all the best for the rest of the year and the time as with the Zanda family. It really is a family, and you'll make the most of all the new links and build on that network that you've already got such a strong network anyway. But it'll be a good time, I'm sure.
Yeah, and thanks as well, Mark, on behalf of all your listeners. It's a fantastic podcast and a really great platform to connect all these different people. So thank you very much for all you do, Mark, and it's been an honour.
Thanks, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks again to Heinegger, who are proud world leaders in the manufacturing and supply of professional sheep shearing and clipping equipment. Thank you to MNSD Animal Health and Norflex Livestock Intelligence. They offer an extensive livestock product portfolio focused on animal health management, all backed up by exceptional service. We thank both of these companies for their ongoing support of the Head Shepherd podcast.